Windy skies, storms and snow. It's jet stream time in the country. Alright guys, hope you liked that song there. It's September, and that means the jet stream is beginning to sag back down south into the United States. And with that, stormy conditions are going to start occurring here soon. And we also can figure out what type of patterns will set up this winter and how this winter is going to shape up. So it's going to be an interesting time here. What I'm going to do in this video is talk a little bit about that, and also what the next couple weeks could bring across the United States. We got some interesting pattern changes. Dude and dudettes, welcome inside the State of the Weather address. You've made it inside, whatever that means. And this is the State of the Weather address for Friday, September 16th, 18Z at 1 p.m. And I'm going to go out to about September 30th. I'm going to talk about the patterns that we could be dealing with, the kind of weather we're going to be dealing with. And we're going to first start off with the precipitable water map from wxweb.meteostar.com. This is kind of a nice map, and you can follow along with me. Now, if you're watching this like 2 decades later, I'd recommend continue to watch it because you could probably learn some forecasting techniques from this. And I'm going to go over a little mini tutorial as well in here. So let's crack right into it. What I like to do first is I like to examine the highs and the lows across our forecasting area of interest, okay? And watch how these evolve over time. That's what we want to watch for. And some key features, like we know out here, okay, if this is examining moisture, it's pretty dry out there, and it's pretty doggone moist down here in the Gulf. So we know that. Now, we also know there's a low up here and a low down here, southern low. And there's a nice little cold front. As you can tell, it's moved through here. You got the separating the northerly winds. Okay, the high pressure is helping push that front south with our anticyclonic flow. As you can tell, I hired my fancy graphic designer to draw these things out. Okay, so we got a little tropical system out here, and some nice return flow in this area. So how does this evolve over time? Let's check this out here. That cold front, boom, brings in some cooler weather across much of the central and eastern U.S. You can see a high pressure system kind of in this area, bringing anticyclonic flow around it. And so that's going to continue working east. So cooler conditions for much of the central and eastern U.S. Some return flow happening here, but watch what happens. So there is another system that's going to want to develop soon, but this is just mostly from the high pressure. It's kind of scooping up some moisture from the Gulf. But watch what happens here. That high continues to sag east. That cold front continues to sag south. And now the winds are out of the north in the Gulf. Do you see that right there? And usually when that happens, when you get a cold front like this, or just a high pressure system that pushes air to the south into the Gulf, it cuts off the moisture. So remember, we got a little bit of return flow, a little blob of moisture that kind of came north. It's kind of pooled in this area right now. That's now shut off. The Gulf is shut off, okay? The gates of the Gulf are closed. So there's not going to be much moisture that moves north after this. Now, watch what happens here. Oh, look at that. We got a little low pressure system. That is on Wednesday, September 21st. So as we get it next week, midweek, we could have another chance for some rain and storms across the central U.S., cooler across the eastern U.S. And so if you notice something here, the moisture quality, while it'll support possibly some rain, maybe some isolated thunderstorms here and there, embedded thunderstorms, the Gulf is still out of the northeast, the winds down here, so it's not bringing in much flow up north. Okay, it's maybe kind of sneaking in some over here, but that flow's just been kind of hanging around, that moisture up there. And so what's going to happen is you're going to have to have a nice front here, because what's going to happen along that front is you can get whatever moisture there is to kind of hit it, and then it'll kind of pool along it, and that's could be what's going to happen. So that's kind of your only hope there, and maybe some evapotranspiration, whatever left there is. And that low pressure system continues, and then we get kind of a new area over here. And the Gulf is now beginning to start to bring return flow up. It's not that moist down there, but it's beginning to bring in some more flow. As we get towards Saturday, September 24th, a nice low pressure system begins to develop. Still some patchy areas of, not quite optimal moisture, but there's a little plume right here. We'll see if that kind of drags north in time. But the moisture is a lot better for this first low. Or second low. The first low can kind of actually get the process started of bringing in moisture, so that by the time that second low comes in, it kind of already has a little bit of moisture to work with, especially since that first low that came through the cold front wasn't all that strong. So we got a little bit more moisture to work with this one at September 24th, Saturday. And there you go. There it begins to really push north. Look at that. Look at that. We've got moisture coming out of the Gulf. Very strong moisture return here. We got a little low up here and another southern low down here. And this is looking pretty strong. Okay, this is a typical late September, early October type of setup. This is Monday, September 26th at 18Z. This is where the time is, if you wanted to see that. And around then is what I think this winter, a common look this winter could show is how this little system evolves in late September. Okay, so we got a low here, and what's going to happen is the lows are going to track up this way. I think that's going to be a common look this winter. And so let's watch this. This could actually bring some severe weather for the central and eastern plains if this holds. And the models have been showing this kind of consistently, this look in late September. This continues to progress east, and we've got a pretty darn strong high pressure system. Look at that. Look at that flow. Pretty strong. And that's going to bring in some very cold conditions for this time of year in this area of the United States. So this is the key thing to look for. A cool end to September is possibly in store, at least according to the models. They've been kind of consistent with this. And this is going to slam moisture back, or drier air back into the Gulf and cut off our supply for a little bit. So I think it's going to be kind of cold late month. Maybe some active rain, maybe some storms along the East Coast before this sets in. And this will continue pushing east, and this is getting kind of far out there after that. So let's examine the jet stream now, and we'll look at some common looks that could happen this winter. Here's our current jet stream. We got a nice low pressure system. Okay, up in the Dakotas, nice little short wave right here. That was responsible for that cold front that you saw that push south, that really pushed south into the Gulf. That's responsible for that. Brought some severe weather in this area yesterday because there was nice little wind shear in the area. Now, subtropical jet kind of bringing in some flow into this area of the United States, but other than that, things should quiet down for a bit here. This is as of Friday, September 16th. So that begins to push to the east, flow in this area. But now, Mr. Jet Stream is beginning to push south. Here's our polar jet here, really bringing in some good, strong winds out into the Midwest and northern U.S. So let's see what happens. This is early next week, Tuesday, September 20th. And what's going to happen here is you got a little bit of kind of zonal for the most part. Okay, so it doesn't really quite dig into the U.S. yet. So at least through September 20th, probably not overly active. Still kind of a late summer, early fall pattern. Yeah, nothing looking too crazy yet here. So we'll advance forward. Not much, but now we got a trough building into the East Coast around Friday, September 23rd. It's beginning to move through. Now watch this here. You see how that flow is stronger on this side and kind of weaker on this side? That's kind of a good thing because that means the trough's going to kind of deepen as this flow moves south. It's going to deepen, and then you'll see some better flow come up on this side. And this is the side that the right side is usually the area where you're going to get storms to develop, low pressure systems to develop. And you look for low pressure systems, the surface lows, in areas of divergence. So you want to see some strong flow begin to diverge. Okay, and you kind of see that. You see how the the heights are packed together, and then they kind of spread out like that. And then up here it spreads out like that. So your area where you're going to see some low pressure system evolve is probably going to be somewhere in this area right here-ish, where that's starting to diverge, kind of right when it starts happening. Look for that. So, all right, here we go. You can see that that side strengthens right there. It's kind of has a negative tilt to it, meaning it's kind of tilted this way. You start up in the center of the trough, and you kind of go down the middle of it. So there's a little bit of a negative tilt to it. There could be a nice little low pressure system that evolves in the plains here. Okay, this is September 24th. Let's go back to Friday, September 23rd at 18Z. This is a great example of divergence right here. Okay, look how the pack or the heights are packed together, and then they kind of spread out like that. And boom, spread out like that, spread out like that. And you got some strong flow, so there's probably going to be a low pressure system right when it starts to do that, which is kind of this area. And that can kind of happen on the right or left quadrants there. So we'll see what happens. Let's look at that real fast, actually. Yeah, this is as Friday, September 23rd. It's right in the area we circled. Look at that low pressure system. Boom, right in the middle of it. Got some very nice cyclonic flow, southerly flow, and also cool cold front behind it. Look at that. Strong winds kind of behind it. So this could bring some severe weather and some rain across the Dakotas in September 23rd, late month. So when considering divergence here, imagine this is the jet stream. Okay, so you see that divergence that happens. It essentially means the air is getting pulled apart kind of in this area up here. And so if you imagine, okay, pretend this is the sky and you got air going in two different directions, to the left and to the right. We're going to draw the surface real fast. Nice grass right here. What that's going to do is if you got air going to the left and to the right, because it's getting stretched apart, something needs to replace it. Because you're getting air that goes apart. If nothing replaced it, it would just turn into like space or something. I don't know. So you need something to replace it here. So what happens is it pulls air from the surface up to replace it. Okay? Now convergence is when two air columns meet together like this. Okay? When they hit each other, they can't go down because of the ground, so they must go up. So that adds to it. So you get this kind of cycle that happens. Okay? So you get more air that comes up, it spreads out. And then you get more air that comes down at the surface, and it goes up. So you get this cycle that happens. That's how low pressure systems kind of develop. So nice little low that moves through. And guess what's happening here? This thing is going to move east, and that's going to bring a giant cold front south. Okay? And that's going to make it very cold for much of the east, central, and eastern United States. And this will continue. We might even get another cold snap towards the 26th and 27th. Look at this thing right here. Boom. That's going to continue bringing in colder weather, okay, into the eastern United States and central United States. Let's watch this move through, like right there-ish. Now, this is the look I think that's going to be kind of common in the winter this year. I think you're going to see this look a lot this winter, where you have a jet stream kind of in this area, or maybe a little bit further east. We're bringing northwest flow for the central United States, and then you're going to get some nice southwesterly flow and a very strong amount for the Ohio Valley region up in the eastern coast, the east coast of the United States. This will likely bring in some pretty good snowstorms for this area right here-ish, kind of near the center of the low. So I think I'm going to get some good snowstorms for the east half of the northeastern United States, or excuse me, the west half of the northeastern United States out to the Ohio Valley and Midwest. We'll see if that happens. We'll watch this, but the models have been consistent showing this late month, and if we keep seeing this throughout the fall, hey, who knows, it could last into the winter. This is something typical that you would see of a La Nina, though I don't think it's going to be a La Nina. I think it's going to be more of a La Nada. We could see this look a few times this winter. Here's an image from the European computer model. It also agrees with this cold conditions. And you can see some very cold weather kind of in this area, and that'll kind of move east. But this is just an image for September 26th. It'll begin to move east a little bit. But the coldest area, there's a lot of consensus that this area right here is going to experience much below average temperatures. And you can see some anomalies that maybe are as much as negative 10 degrees below average. Not negative 10 degrees, but 10 degrees below average. So we'll see what happens. Mid-September update. And if you want more of these videos, these forecast videos, and if you want to learn more about the weather, improve your forecasting skills, and receive weather forecasting tutorials, go ahead and subscribe wherever I put the subscribe button on this video. Otherwise, go ahead and go below and subscribe. And hope you liked today's video, and I'll see you soon.